Good morning. Gonna work through a hand. This was played last night. Just wanted to review it. Thought I'd talk my way through it and record the session. If this gets posted, well, just know that we're not going to be saying the showdown on this hand. So, 10-0 game. We've got 8-handed. I'm in the low jack open raise with ace-3 hearts. I think that's pretty standard here. Be aggressive, open up our range. I have been playing somewhat tight. I get called by this guy who's playing 35-18, 50% over 50 hands or so. He is cold calling about 30% or so, and just calling any 2-bet. So he's playing hands. I don't really have any 3-bets, but I do have a note on him that we have seen some hands 3-bet range for two suited. So at least in one point outside of the last 3 months or so, we have seen him 3-bet. I'm going to put his range as something like this. I think calling 2-bets, you could see like ace-10 suited, 9-7 suited, called 3-bets out of position, king-10 suited, queen-jack suited. I think he's calling with all of those hands. So I think we're looking at suited aces, we're looking at suited broadways, we're looking at offsuit broadways, probably ace-jack, king-jack, queen-jack. I'm not sure about ace-10, king-10, queen-10, etc. Suited connectors, pocket pair, etc. So we're going to go to a flop of king-8-4. So that actually doesn't connect with us a huge amount of time. But we have a backdoor flush draw. We've got a backdoor straight draw. We could easily have king high. We've excluded aces, kings, and queens from villain's range because I assume he's going to 3-bet along with ace king. I think he would probably 3-bet those, or at least just kind of standard 3-bets. So when he checks to me, I'm not too surprised. We have to build our betting range. With our betting range, I think for value, if we just do top pair plus, that's 26%. We should be having over 50% bluff range here to balance. And with the gut shot, you can see we're not going to have a huge number, even if we add all of our 2-card backdoor flush draws. Some of them already connect, so if we take out all of those, we take out all of the 8s, if we take out the 4s, but don't have 4s like ace-4, we're at 26%. I'm going to say ace-4 is probably value, or not value, is probably bluff. I think ace-8's probably also a bluff, since the king connects with us. So you can see that we're not like overly, we don't have a whole lot of draws in our range. We don't have a whole lot of draws, so that kind of means we're probably not going to be betting all of our top pair hands. Probably not. If we go through, I would say probably the top pair weaker kickers we're not betting. Maybe even not all of like the king queen. So we're getting closer to our 2-to-1 ratio if we do something like this. Leave like king queen, king jack offsuit, but bet with our suited. We're getting close to those. So we'll say, we'll leave our suited kings, and then we do have like a bottom pair that we were betting. I think for kind of a bluff. Probably these 5s, 6s, and 7s we're betting for a bluff, and that brings us up to 35% bluff, 15%. So maybe with top pair we also add king queen. King queen still just gives us a little bit too much. Maybe all of our suited kings. That gets us up. It's possible maybe we do the king queen offsuit, but then we use like, we keep some of these like sets 2 pairs behind, or like aces behind. We'll see. but I think that's probably going to be our betting range. So I think we're c-betting. This is about 50%. I bet on the smaller side because I think we were expanding ranges. But as I think about it, maybe we go on the larger sides because we have kind of a long draw, so we're trying to polarize a bit more. Idea is if we go larger, we're going to c-bet less frequency. Frequently, if we bet smaller, we're going to be c-betting more frequently. So I did smaller here also. I think it was like an ace king, king queen, aces. I think those are all hands we want to go small to keep like a wide range in villain's hands. So I bet he calls. So now the question is like, what does he call with? He's probably calling with all of his pairs. Knowing players like this, that's loose, he's going to call with all pairs. We're going to give him the draws as well, at least the gut shots. So we'll say 54% is what he's calling. Turns a king of hearts, and that's actually pretty good for us because it gives us a heart draw. And if villain has anything like any one pair hand, I think he's going to give that up. So he's going to check to us. So the question I think becomes, I hesitated with my bet. I did bet here, and while I'm reviewing the hand, is that I'm unsure if this was the right play, and we'll look at it with GTO. But I hesitated because I thought, man, if I bet and he raises and he has a king, I'm not sure if I could necessarily call with the flush draw. I might have to. But I know he has a king in his range. But the same token, I was also thinking, if he has queens or if he has jacks, tens, nines, I think this a bet here is going to get him to fold. So, I can get him to fold without having to make a hand. So the question is, if I bet, what hands is he calling with? Or what hands would he raise? So I think the flush draw is going to be raising. I'm not sure if the gut shot's going to continue. It might. So we could set that and just say 50% chance that he does call here for the gut shot. I think he's giving all of these weaker pairs a fold. And if he does that, then you could see he's folding 66% of the time, 67% of the time, which we can bet a smaller size expecting him to fold. That's going to be pretty good profit for us if this is his range. And then the question would be like, what size bet do we make? So I think at this point, I want to check out GTO before we move forward. So I did program in check initially, and then I looked at bet sizing. So it does look like we're going small or large, that it is split. We do have some 50%. I think that's probably just to mix it in. Our ace 3 here looks like we are kind of evenly split between the larger sizes and the smaller sizes. So it looks like either of them would be okay. Overall c-bet in this spot is 90%. So it looks like we could go either or. And we, if we look at trips here or look at a set, we do keep the kings, I guess. The top set we go smaller, the bottom set we go larger. I guess the bottom set we go larger because it allows the kings to be there, whereas when we have two kings in our hand, makes it less likely. So, if we go with this, we bet here, and then villain calls. You can see that he is calling. He's supposed to call with quite a bit of junk, not junk, but quite a bit of pocket pair hands. And then I've seen this before where the king comes out, and that's probably one of the bad cards for us to catch. Because if he's calling with the kings, we're not getting that fold, but we're going to check it. So we're betting 44% of the time. Ace 3 of hearts is still a bet. So Ace 2 is a bet. Ace 3 is a bet. I'm not surprised with Ace 4. We've got a bottom pair here. We do have some value. Ace 5, Ace 9. So our nut flushes are bets. Our nut flushes are bets. And this was betting half pot, so this is pretty good. So I like my bet at this point. Let's go ahead and let's edit the tree. Let's keep that, accept it. All right, so we bet here. Actually, yeah, we bet. He calls, and I'm not sure if this is going to work. If this will necessarily work. We're going to say he checks again here. And here, it wanted us to bet 70%. So we can go 33%. We can go 50%. We'll go 66%. And then we're going to do 100% pot. I think 100% is going to probably be the least likely. So we're going to accept it. We'll run the solver and we'll be back. All right, we're going to check this out, and then we're gonna kind of fix it and play a toy game here. So yeah, the smaller bet size, we're betting 91%. So basically, GTO saying we should be betting nearly 100%. That's gonna cause Villain to call with a lot of weaker pairs, which I think he does. I think that's no big surprise. And then when he checks us, we're looking at, what do we bet now? Since we're betting 90%, I think it's kind of important to see that we're not necessarily betting a whole lot. We've set it up as 30, 50, 66, and then 100%. It looks like the larger size is definitely what's preferred at this point, so we're sizing up in this simulation. And it looks like maybe pot size bet is looking pretty good. So if we bet pot, it should be narrowing him down. We'll still get some smaller pairs, and I think you're calling with these middle pairs and the under pairs to protect against exactly the hands that I'm doing it with, which is your nut flush. Look at the flush draws. Ace 3, is there. We're betting. We're still betting it. We don't have a lot here, but I think what we're going to do is fix our ranges, though. So here in this spot, we are on the flop. We are going to adjust this out of position player's range to all of those. So basically any pair got shot. Not sure about the 2-card backdoor flush draws. And then for us, I mean, based on this, I think it's appropriate to probably fire out everything. So instead of going through 50%, if we're going small, I think we are probably 76%. Gut shot, no made hands, probably like ace highs. Yeah, something like that. We'll say we'll go with that range, which is, I think, probably what I would have been doing. I think I would have continued with the 2-card backdoor flush draws. If I didn't have the flush draws, I'm looking at staying on. So looking at what we should do versus what we actually do. I looked at this and thought this is actually a pretty good board to bet. I think we are betting a high percentage of the time based on GTO, so I'll just have to remember that. All right, so we're going to build this tree, and we have to go to the turn, so 10.7. And the effective stack is villain, so we're going to say 70. So we have 50%. We're going to go build tree here. All right, we're going to import the tree. All right, check. We're going to check that. So now we are on the turn. We already bet, so I'm going to say villain usually is going to check here. And then for us, let's add our 33%. We already have 50%. We'll go 66%. And we're going to go 100%. Accept changes, run solver, and we'll be back. All right, so the reason we're doing this, rerunning this is when we had the initial situation and we go to our bet, the call, or a check bet call, when GTO runs the simulations, it's taking into account all of the trees. So it's taking into account, this idea that when it goes check bet call, that I then have a series of bet sizes that can happen, or that villain's gonna take that line and then check to me. When it goes check check, villain could easily then check the turn or bet the turn. And so forth. And it's gonna adjust its ranges. It's gonna adjust how it plays for each of those paths, each of those lines. Here, what we've done is basically said, we think these are the ranges on the turn. All right. And we set up the check check, so 100% of our range stays, or 100% of these ranges stay on the turn. So that gives us then a much better idea of what the line should be at this point. So we got to here, to this point with these ranges. What do we do? So villain we programmed as a check, so now it's on us, and now you can see that this changes quite a bit. With our ranges, we're checking 61% of the time here, which is different than what the initial tree was running. Now we've got your flush draw. Looks like we're not always betting it. You can see our ace-3 now becomes a check based on these sizes. So while the initial line was suggesting that we were doing good with this bet, when we run this simulation where we kind of give villain all these different types of hands, I think GTO is saying, hey, you need to check. So we can kind of see that here when, of all the calls that he makes, he calls 54% of the time. A quarter of them are kings, which mean a quarter of them now connect to 3 of a kind. So GTO is actually being a bit more conservative on what we should be doing, how we should be playing. We're betting quads, we're betting full houses, we're betting 3 of a kind. We're betting basically all of them, but then like our aces are checks, our low pocket pairs are checks, and we're going to be balancing with like our big hands, ace queen, ace jack, ace 10, ace 9. Those are all hands that kind of block other hands that could be in villain's range, so it reduces like the number of king queens, king jacks, king 10s that he has, which those are all those Broadway hands. Whereas like ace-3, the ace littles, flush draws, they don't really block any of those. Villain's going to have all of the combos of the king queen, king jack, king 10, etc. So I think based on this analysis here, while our small bet size was appropriate, and while it initially looked like our turn play was okay, I think the GTO, based on our range and assessment of the players' range, it looks like we should be checking this with our ace-3. And I think that's why I ran this, because I was suspecting that. I think that should have been the play here. And I think I've run this situation so many times, and I'm starting to think, yeah, that's probably what we need to do. It just kind of depends on how many other hands villain has in his range. How wide I think we think it is. How loosely he calls. If he calls with a bunch of 2-card backdoor flush draws, I think that might be a little bit different. And we can try that one too, but it looks like our bet was inappropriate here. We do have some small. So looking here, these larger ones, we're betting kind of on the large size. Yeah, ace 2, ace 3 is larger. No real favorite. So if we bet here and let's say he raises, our flush draw gets basically a fold. Let's check. Let's go back to here. Let's go ahead and add all of his 2-card backdoor flush draws now. This will increase the amount of time it'll take. All right, so we're going to build the tree. Everything else stays the same, but we do have to edit it. So we're going to check, check, get to our turn. We are going to program him into check here since we have the lead. All right. Accept changes, confirm. We will run the solver and be back. All right. Check, check, king of hearts. Check here. Now that changes. Now we're starting to bet a bit more. If he's calling with all of those 2-card backdoor flush draws, if he's gonna be a loose player, maybe based on the 35-18 he will. He's not really folding a huge number of times post flop. Let's see here. We're looking at like this guy probably is calling 2-card backdoor flush draws, gut shots, etc. That's probably how he's playing. I've got 4,000 hands on him. This guy's probably being a bit more selective on his 2-card backdoor flush draws, probably only calling those that have some sort of connection, which might be all of them, or it might be slightly on the higher side. So you can see how just increasing the number of hands that's in his range is going to affect our play. And it looks like we could do like half pot or 33%. We bet. If villain comes over the top, it does look like we are calling. So what happens in this hand? I hesitated. I probably think we should have just checked behind here. I didn't. I bet a third, which this one kind of suggests it could, but I'm kind of thinking maybe we have to use ace 2, ace 3 as kind of like more polarization. He does come over the top. So in our previous one, when we get check raised, then I think what we should be doing is just folding. In this place, yeah, we've got hearts. In this simulation, it says we call, but I don't think villain has to check raise a lot more and has because of the increase in his folding frequencies. So he's folding 30%, 31%. He's check raising with full house 3 of a kind, and then also with like some of these flush draws, these weaker flush draws. Yeah, weaker flush draws. These ace high hands are some flush draws. So if we think he's going to do that, then probably we're calling. And I did call here. and the queen didn't get, of course the queen didn't improve, and villain bet here. He overbet the pot, and I think that just kind of it polarizes. He either has it or he completely missed. And I've started to see, so yesterday's game and then the last few times in December that I played, I've started to see that I'm encountering several players that have likely moved up from the 2NL and maybe the 5NL game, and they really only make these plays where they just shove when they have the nuts. So I would kind of think he's got king queen here, which means we're gonna have to fold, and I did. So that's the game. So what do we look at it? How do we look at it? This is how we work through the Flopzilla. It looks like we try to keep things balanced, but on this board versus this range, GT on this board versus our opponent's range, we should be attacking, and I think that's probably what I'm doing here. Pretty much just 100%, because we do have backdoor flush draws that we can pick up, and then if we don't improve our backdoor flush draws, we just check behind. So I like the bet. I think the bet's okay. I think maybe we should go a little bit larger though. Kind of use ace-3 as a balance against some of our trips, but it seems like mixed. Sometimes we go 66%, sometimes we go 33%. It's because we're balancing against trips. Pocket fours should be larger, pocket kings should be smaller, etc. So I think the pre-flop play is okay. I think the turn play, I think probably we should just have checked behind here, saw the river, and what would be different is we check behind, and we see a river, and let's say the queen comes out. He bets. We could easily call if we had ace queen. We could call if we had queen jack, and keep it small. So the pot's 10.7. If he bets 10.7, if he bets pot, we could call with just the one pair hand to kind of protect against getting bluffed. I think ace queen would be a calling range. Queen jack's probably on the cusp of folding. But I think that's kind of how we do it. We can check that. So we check behind, and then villain bets. We have him betting half, 50%. And here you can see that at 50% bet, we're calling with quite a few pairs. We're protecting against the the missed flush draws that he should be betting. So overall, I think I messed up on the turn. I think the turn should have been a check instead of a bet. So long one. Did a lot with GTO. Hopefully you enjoyed it.